Welcome in the latest episode of the What I Bet podcast and Straight Out of Vegas AM podcast feed. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, Straight Out of Vegas AM on Twitter, pregame now. Also, if you want to find me on Twitter at the real underscore G Warner across all social media platforms. Tonight's episode, we're going through the World Cup on June 26th of the year of our Lord 2026. Also, the Major League Baseball card on a big Friday weekend getting started in Major League Baseball as we get closer and closer to the All-Star break. We'll also save you some money at pregame.com with the promo code and give you a what I bet best bet coming end of show. Let's start with the World Cup as we have simultaneous matchups all kicking off at the same time, two per group until we get the round of 32 coming off the United States losing actually after two wins, winning the group, clinching it, and losing the worst team, the fourth place finisher, guaranteed to finish last. But Turkey showed up finally after two matches of not scoring, ended up scoring a third goal, especially one at the death, which was important if you have Turkey in a pool like I do. But they were very disappointing this entire competition. So probably not enough, too late, too sad, so sad, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we'll start with a 2 p.m. Central Time kickoff, 3 p.m. Eastern Time with the Norwegians. They are facing the French, both France and Norway on 6 points. So they've clinched their passage into the next round. But this is a big battle to see who will win the group and essentially get an easier matchup coming up next match. Norway are 1 goal underdog right now. Total is three, which is pretty large. And we've seen this number climb from 2.5 at the initial open up to 2 3/4, all the way up to even a 3 goal total right now. It might be on the move even higher than that. Norway as a side, we're 3/4 goal underdogs entering into the World Cup. We're down to half of a goal and then climb back to 3/4, back up to +1. I'm really interested in Norway +1, not only because they have the best goal scorer in the world, Erling Haaland scoring the most goals in any sort of league in the top part of this world in Europe, playing for Manchester City. But Kylian Mbappé for Real Madrid just been really disappointing for him, and really for what he's done at that club in the pinnacle league in Spain, arguably the second best league in the world. He's come under a ton of fire and a lot of scrutiny over his lack of defense. He seems to play a lot more for France, and I think that does help the French national team's defense, which makes me lean a little bit towards under. But I do think that we see a ton of goal scoring firepower on both these sides, and that does worry me considerably if you're looking to play an under this matchup. I'd like to push on three, certainly, but the +1 on Norway more interesting. It's very juiced at the moment, but I expect we'll probably hang right about that number. And I'll take the Norwegians, who've been awesome, beat Italy to qualify automatically for the World Cup back in group stage play in qualifying in the European qualifiers, and honestly have been hot ever since. Next, we'll go to Iraq and Senegal, both on 0 points, as both have lost both of their matches and are pretty much eliminated, I think, unless there's a huge goal differential. And Senegal can maybe sneak in with 3 points in that potential, maybe last third place position that gets through. 8 of the 12 groups will move through, which is ridiculous, but that's a whole nother argument about FIFA. With that said, Iraq we're a 2 goal underdog. Initially, it's open +1, very juiced to towards 1.25, but ultimately reopened after the two match days with Iraq a 1 3/4 goal underdog, was as high as two. Looks like current numbers is +1 3/4. I imagine it gets back to two. Senegal are certainly in a position where they need to get big wins. In the last match, a single or big win. Senegal, I honestly thought would be fighting Norway for that second position to runner up and maybe even shock the world and win this group. So I'm very disappointed in how they've played. A lot of it, I think, is done or due to an aging backline, some big mistakes, so some great saves from their goalkeeper Eduardo Mendy, but also some really bad mistakes as well. Iraq just have no players that play on any recognizable level in this world, so I can't back them as a big underdog or the under three here, which has climbed all the way from 2.5. So there's certainly some value towards under. We've seen some of the smaller nations actually performing fairly well against the spread and unders hitting in those matchups in match day 3 so far. I just don't think there's enough for me to want to play there. So move next to the 7 p.m. kickoff time here in Texas, but 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll start with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on 1 point. They're facing Cape Verde on 2 points in a battle to potentially find a runner-up possibly, and also some interest in finishing in the second position or finishing in third place and trying to advance that way. Anyway, we've seen the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They initially opened a quarter goal favorite that fell to about pick 'em. as an underdog before match day one kicked off. Well, since then, Saudi Arabia ended up opening an underdog here, and I'm looking for them to move back to that price. Currently, Cape Verde are darlings of the world with draws against Uruguay and also Spain so far, a goalless draw against Spain, which is incredible. But there's a difference between drawing and actually winning matches, especially as a favorite. So I'm interested to see if Saudi Arabia move to a quarter goal underdog. I don't know if that'll happen, but I'll be waiting to see it. Total is interesting to me as well. We initially saw 2.25, very juiced to under since this match number reopened closer to match or after match day two finished. It was again, it was actually was as high as 2.5, back down to 2.25. I think we probably oscillate between those two numbers, 2.25 and 2.5. If you can get a decent price on under 2.5, I think that's probably a buy, or I'll be waiting to play under 2.25 in that matchup. That's my biggest interest in that 7 p.m. start. Next, we'll go to Uruguay and Spain, also in the same group. Spain on 4 points, Uruguay on two. And this is certainly the biggest names in this group. The other two teams weren't supposed to have much of a chance to advance, but Spain, best club or best nation, best side in this competition, I think, by far. But they've got a really tough matchup, and they are 1 goal favorites currently to Uruguay. Uruguay were initially a 3/4 goal underdog, a lot of juice on the Spain side. Initially, we initially actually even saw a 1.25 goal underdog price on Uruguay, a very expensive one after match day two. But the +1 on Uruguay is very interesting to me. They don't really have the offense of the past. Darwin Núñez got lost in Saudi Arabia and has certainly not been the goal scorer he was. He certainly has it in him, and when he's hot, but he hasn't been hot, so that's a big question. As for the total in this one, initially we saw it was a 2.5 Uruguay and Spain. We've seen as high after match day two as 2.75. We're actually down to 2.25 now, so it seems that like there's been a ton of money coming in on both Uruguay and also on the under. And that certainly correlates. Uruguay have not really been an offense, despite Marcelo Bielsa being one of the most aggressive managers out there in the world, really. Biggest interest for me is Uruguay as a +1 underdog, and also have some interest to under 2.25, though I'm very concerned about Spain eventually cracking the whip and scoring as many goals, cracking the bottle, if you will, and scoring a bunch. Last two matches in the World Cup before we get to the Major League Baseball card. We'll start with Iran and Egypt in the Pride match being played in Seattle, which is not what I would say about Iran or Egypt, two Muslim countries, but maybe we'll turn over a new leaf. Probably not. Iran were initially a quarter goal underdog when match day one was about to kick off. Total was 2.25. It fell to two. We've seen it. Iran been a quarter goal underdog pretty much throughout. Total was as low as two, has come up to 2.25. Still very juiced to under. I'm not really a believer in goals being scored in this matchup. Iran scored two in a 2-2 draw with New Zealand as a big favorite in their opener. And then goalless draw with Belgium, I thought played really well, also benefited a lot from a Belgium red card. The big question is how much can Egypt score? They did not start off well against New Zealand, but ended up coming from behind and getting a win from a 1-0 deficit to win 2-1. They certainly have a great defense to them, and so biggest interest for me is under 2 goals in this matchup. And I do have some interest in backing Iran a little bit here. Egypt on 4 points, Iran on 2 points. Both teams are in decent shape if they win to advance. Iran probably need to win, though even goal differential on 3 points would certainly put them ahead of Scotland. We'll see what happens with third place permutations as we get down the way. Also, New Zealand and Belgium in this group. Last matchup we'll cover on this World Cup card before we move to Major League Baseball. Currently, New Zealand, or excuse me, initially New Zealand were a goal and a half underdog before match day one. Total was 2.75 in this one. We've certainly seen a big change in that. New Zealand have climbed from a 2 goal underdog to 2.25. So we've climbed 3/4 of a goal since that opener number before match day one. And as for the total, we've seen that climb from 3 to 3.25 to 3.5. So literally another 3/4 of a goal higher. And I don't really see where we get there. New Zealand's been certainly a lot more aggressive offensively, which has been good for them scoring goals, but also left their defense really, unfortunately, without a lot of support at times, which is not great. But to me, I think I've been betting against Belgium for a long time. Their golden generation flopped. They've been really weak in this competition. Have been a great bet, both Egypt and under, Iran and under, and I feel like New Zealand and under is a little bit tempting fate. But considering we're already 4-0 fading this team and their goal scoring abilities or lack thereof, Very interested in New Zealand, 2.25 goal underdogs, and under 3.5 in this kickoff at 10 p.m. Central Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, June 26th. Now we'll move to the Major League Baseball card. We don't have an early game from what I can see in Wrigley Field, so we'll start with the Cincinnati Reds and Pittsburgh Pirates. I have not seen these lines currently, so or before now, so we'll get into it as we speak. Nice little first look, if you will, like we're getting married. Cincinnati Reds, Andrew Abbott, a 181 underdog on the road to Paul Skenes. Total 7.5. This one just more to the over. I don't. Andrew Abbott's been a great pitcher to me for years, but really has not delivered on that this season. Pirates are hitting the ball really well. A lot of fastballs usually, though. Question is, how much can the Reds score on Paul Skenes? And I don't think they can. Both these teams have drifted below 500 recently after everyone in the Central were over 500 at one point this season. Incredible fashion. Next with the Houston Astros, Spencer Arrighetti on the road to Detroit Tigers and Cater Montero. Montero minus 115 favorite. Total is 8, and this one just very heavily to over. Arrighetti to me just isn't consistent enough. Got a good curveball, but that's not enough to win games in Major League Baseball at this point. Total feels a little bit low to me, but honestly, Tigers haven't been scoring much, and it's a great park for the under. Next with the Washington Nationals, Andrew Alvarez on the road to the Baltimore Orioles and Trevor Rogers, a rivalry series, if you will. At least I don't know if the Nats are still sharing their revenue with Baltimore. Excuse me, but at this point, the Nats plus 121 underdog total is 9, just more to the over here. I'm interested in backing the okay, of course. Spreadsheet is basically broken. Good job by me. Let's see. Anyway, to finish up on this I guess thought about the Nats and the Orioles. The Nats have been crushing the ball and have hit so well this season that I believe that won't stop. Really, I don't see any reason why it would. The Orioles spent a lot of money in trying to build that offense. I'm not sure it worked very well for them, but they clearly have a lot of talent. I just don't know if there's enough there for me really at this point. So, I mean, the question is, I just don't know that I can back Andrew Alvarez at this point. He's been so inconsistent and honestly had a great start to his Major League Baseball career, and I thought he was a lot better than he was, but it's not really been that case or that way for a while. So for me, it's probably a skip on the side unless we get a much bigger number on the Nationals. As unfortunately, I'm trying to do some spreadsheet in the background, but at this point, overs with Trevor Rogers, who is a long time ago a Rookie of the Year candidate in the NL when he pitched for the Marlins, but it's been a long time since he's been that strong. And I don't really see a reason to back him. So looking towards over in this matchup. Next, go to the Texas Rangers, Nathan Eovaldi on the road to Toronto Blue Jays, and former Ranger just last year with Patrick Corbin. Corbin, a minus 102 home underdog, minus 108 on the Rangers. Totals 8.5, juice minus 110 both ways. I'll be looking for the Rangers to move to underdog, though it's really hard to trust Nathan Eovaldi at this point in the season. Next, we'll go to the New York Yankees. Will Warren on the road to the Boston Red Sox and Peyton Tolle. Tolle plus 102 underdog. Totals 8.5, juice minus 105 to under minus 115 to over. If I trusted Will Warren, who's been kind of getting touched up lately a little bit more, I think I'd lean under here. The Yankees have not been performing offensively without Aaron Judge. The Red Sox are terrible at home and honestly are a great defensive team, which is so weird for a Red Sox fan from the past like myself. I guess strongest lead is under 8.5. Would love to get a 9. Next to the Seattle Mariners and Luis Castillo on the road to the Cleveland Guardians and Joey Cantillo. Castillo a minus 102 road underdog, minus 108 on the Guardians here. Total 7.5, just minus 110 both ways. Feels a little cheap on Seattle. Luis Castillo working back into the rotation after pitching in a bullpen or I guess bulk role or piggyback role behind Bryce Miller. But Seattle's in need of another starting pitcher here. And honestly, there's been a lot of struggles for George Kirby and Brian Wu so far. With that said, the Guardians are great at home. Trust their pitching. Don't really trust Seattle much at all. And I don't think there's a huge difference in offense here, even without Jose Ramirez. So give me the Guardians minus 108. We'll next go to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Gallen, who to start rained out on Thursday. They're visiting. Arizona is the Tampa Bay Rays and Nick Martinez. Gallen plus 123 underdog, totals 8.5, juice minus 120 to over. Martinez minus 136 favorite. It's not really compute in my system, but I lean that way. The Rays, great team at home, and I want to fade Zach Gallen. We'll next move to Chicago Cubs and Colin Ray on the road at Milwaukee Brewers and Jacob Misiorowski. Colin Ray at plus 227 underdog, minus 255 on the Brewers. Jacob Misiorowski is incredible. I did fade him on the road at Atlanta last weekend with a winner, but He's scary and honestly can pitch out of pretty much anything at this point in his career. Total in this one is 7.5, juice all the way to under. Probably not much for me to do in that one right there. Next to the Colorado Rockies and Sugano on the road at the Minnesota Twins and Taj Bradley. Sugano plus 145 underdog, total is 9, juice minus 130 to over. So a lot of runs expected there. I just don't know who's trusting the Rockies offense away from home. Next with the Miami Marlins and Max Meyer on the road at Michael McGreevy and St. Louis Cardinals. He was supposed to start on Thursday, but that got rained out, as already said. Meyer plus 104 underdog, minus 115 on the Cardinals. Total is 8, minus 113 to over. I trust the defense, well, really the pitching in this matchup, the starting pitching. Miami Marlins have been awesome this month. Cardinals bullpen's been solid, and with days off, that's very important for both these teams. Lean to under 8 in that matchup and probably want to look towards an under first half as well. We don't have a price on that just yet. 2 more games to go before we get to a way to save you some money at pregame.com. Then what about best bet? We'll start with the Athletics, and they're on the road at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. JT Ginn, a minus 123 favorite on the road to Urania, plus 112 coming back on the Angels. Total is 8.5, minus 110 both ways. I lean to Urania as plus 112 underdog. He's awesome. The Angels bullpen is really bad behind him, but the Athletics has not been great either. JT Ginn and Urania, I think, matched up in the same park earlier this season, a walk-off home run from Zach Neto, a winner for At the Real Underscore G winner across all social media platforms, and happy for us to get that one that day. Still certainly have soured on the Angels since then, but I do like Urania and I like the plus 112 home underdog. Last game to discuss on this Major League Baseball card before we get to save you some money. Start with the Los Angeles Dodgers and Roki Sasaki on the road at Walker Buehler and San Diego Padres. Buehler plus 131 underdog, total 7.5, minus 118 to over. It's a tiny total. I don't really agree with that. Don't really trust Sasaki. Certainly don't trust Walker Buehler. Those numbers have been better since he came over to San Diego. But you got to think the Dodgers know Buehler as well as anyone because he pitched so long there. So lean to over 7.5 in that matchup. Now let's get to a way to save you some money at pregame.com before I get you a promo code to save you even more money potentially coming up down the line. Let's go to promo code is HIT15, HIT15, Hotel India Tango 15. Give for $15 off anything at the pregame.com website. It's good through July 6th. So you have a long time to use it. Go save $15. You can buy my package for tomorrow's World Cup, Major League Baseball. I'll try to get that out there as well. Plus any great handicappers at pregame.com. Use the promo code supports this podcast. Keep us on the airwaves. HIT15, Hotel India Tango 15. As for the What About Best Bet, we're going to go back to Detroit. Been following that series and really with the New York Yankees, and tonight against the Astros really closely. Caber Montero, Detroit Tigers minus 115 at home for the best bet, the What I Bet Best Bet on this episode. 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is Real Underscore G Warner across all social media platforms. This is the most recent episode of the What I Bet Best Bet portion coming to you live right now in the short video version. This is episode 55. Thank you for all the support. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, straight out of Vegas AM, on Twitter, twitter.com/pregame now. Also myself, you can find me at the Real Underscore G Warner across all social media platforms. For our best bet in this episode, we're going the Detroit Tigers minus 115 at home to the Houston Astros. Cater Montero, I think, is one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball, and I want to be against Spencer Arrighetti, who pitches really well with a curveball. Fastball isn't enough, and I just don't think his breaking ball is good enough either. So take the Tigers fighting their way to try to stay in a playoff race and not end up trading Casey Mize and their big-time ace, Cy Young winner, defending champion, and that holder of that award is Tarek Skubal. So take the Tigers minus 115. Cater Montero stayed up in the big leagues this season. I think he's deserved it for years. Take Detroit minus 115. We'll see you in the next episode of What I Bet.